What's up fellow nerds, I'm your host Dr. McKay and welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be a breakdown of the Lantean gate ship.
Gate ship 1? Little puddle jumper like this?
Well, it's a ship that goes through the gate. Gate ship.
Oh, no, that's all wrong. Oh, okay. Well, it's official. You don't get to name anything. Ever. Flight, this is puddle jumper. Or go to lunch.
Fine, the Puddle Jumper. As so aptly named there by John Shepard, this breakdown will cover all aspects of the jumper from the history of the ship to its technical specifications. But before we get started though, if you like the content, please feel free to like, comment and subscribe for more. And with that said, let's go. So the history of the Puddle Jumper goes back millions of years to around the time of the creation of the city ships by the Lanteans in the Milky Way galaxy. The Puddle Jumper's history is mostly lost to time as we are talking about millions of years here, and the show only glances at pieces of the Lantean past history. But what we can do for this breakdown is do some speculation and guesswork and try to piece together some of the history. So with that in mind, let's theorize. So my guess is that the Puddle Jumpers were part of the original city ships plans from the start, as the city ships have many features that are purposely for the jumpers that are built right into the infrastructure of the city. So this would put the jumpers' creation around the same time as Atlantis in the Milky Way galaxy. The jumpers were also designed with Stargate travel in mind from the start, with the jumpers' shape being designed to fit through the Stargate itself. This use of gate travel with the jumpers, in my guess, was for the use as a scout or light transport between planets and outposts in the Milky Way galaxy and later the Pegasus galaxy. The jumper's cloaking ability also gives me reason to suspect that the ship was used in recon or stealth missions, possibly against enemies, or just the researching of local life on various planets within each galaxy, without being seen. The Puddle Jumper is a very versatile ship with many uses and served the Lanteans for millions of years as seen in the show, as there's one shown in the first episode of Atlantis on Earth millions of years ago, just before Atlantis left Earth. This shows that the Puddle Jumpers were so well built that the Lanteans never changed the design over the course of the millennia. The jumpers in Atlantis would ultimately survive and go on to serve the Atlantis expedition into the present day, being used in various roles and missions that the expedition found themselves in. So given that a lot of the history of the jumpers is left to mystery, leaving us to theorize ourselves, what are your thoughts on the creation of the jumpers? Comment your thoughts below. So with the history covered, let's go over the ship specifications. So for the specifications, as usual, we will cover the size of the Puddle Jumper first. Now again, just to remind you all that the sizes are not always accurate to what we see on the show, as Stargate is riddled with ship scaling mistakes. So with that out the way, the Puddle Jumpers are small cylindrical shaped crafts with an angled front and rear, and are roughly around 8 meters long and are around 4.7 meters in diameter, which allows the jumper to fit snugly through the center of the Stargate, with the Stargate's inside diameter being around 5 meters, so it fits just right. The jumpers also have two retractable drive pods that extend from each side of the ship, extending the width of the ship by at least 2 meters each side, rounding off the width of the jumper with the drive pods extended to be around 9 meters wide. The Puddle Jumper is a relatively small ship compared to many other ships in the Stargate show, so I compared the jumpers to the F-302 in this image, just to put the size of the jumper in scale. So with the size covered, let's go over the technical specifications, starting off with the engines. The Puddle Jumper has two main forms of propulsion. The first is an anti-gravity drive that allows the jumper to defy gravity and hover in place. This is mostly used when the drive pods are retracted. The next are the sublight drive. This form of propulsion allows for fast atmospheric and spaceflight using the drive pods while extended. The jumper's engines also work underwater, allowing the jumpers to become a submersible and essentially fly underwater. All modes of propulsion are produced by the two drive pods at the rear of the ship. Other engines seen used in the Puddle Jumpers are the limited hyperdrive module that Rodney McKay made for one of the jumpers. but this was created while he had a highly evolved brain, and subsequently he did not finish the upgrade, leaving it partly usable with some extra work being needed to get it to be functional, and with it only being used once before it burnt out. The only other engine, if you could call it an engine, is the time machine module that the Lantean Janus created for the jumpers. However, only 2 time jumpers were ever seen in the show, and not much is really known of how they work, so we'll just leave it there for the engines. Up next, we have the power supply. The power supply for the Puddle jumpers are never really shown in detail, so all we know about it is a rechargeable power supply, and it has a long lifespan, and is a reasonably powerful power source, being able to power a shield around the jumper and take multiple drone strikes against it without failing. So with all that said about the power supply, let's go and talk about the weapons. So the weapons of the Puddle jumpers are the main standard weapons of the Lanteans, which are the drones. The jumper carries around 12 drones within 2 retractable weapons pods on each side of the ship in front of the drive pods here. I estimate the drone capacity being at least double, due to the scene in the show where we see the use of the jumpers to destroy many asteroids, showing them shooting far more than 12 per jumper. But this is never really confirmed within the show, and it is really my opinion about how many drones the jumpers have. So with that all said, let's talk about the cloak. So as mentioned before, the jumper has a cloaking generator, which renders the jumper completely invisible to the naked eye and to many different factions' sensors. This ability to cloak is one of the biggest strengths of the jumpers, allowing the jumper to sneak right up to an enemy without making them aware of the jumper being there. The cloak can also be converted to a very strong shield, allowing for additional defense in certain situations. The cloak also can be converted into an anti-replicator field, as seen when McKay used this function to infiltrate the Asuran replicator city during Season 4. However, when the cloak is converted into a shield, it drains the jumper's power supply far more quickly than if it was a cloak, leaving this function to be only used if the need arises. The only other use of the cloak's conversion seen in the show that could be a conversion is the Wraith stun field used by Michael when he infiltrated Atlantis, but this could have been a separate add-on module of Wraith design and not a conversion of the cloak. So we have to see about that one. Next, let's talk about the control systems. So the Puddle jumper is controlled manually by a pilot using a mix between mental control and physical controls. The jumpers can only be flown by someone with the Lantean gene or ATA gene or ancient gene, depending on which term you're familiar with, but once initialized by the pilot, a co-pilot without the gene can operate secondary systems of the jumper. The jumper also has a large heads-up display that displays in front of the main view window for the pilot and co-pilot to see. This display can display many features from battle data to planetary information to star system scanning data, which brings us to the sensors. The jumper's sensors are extremely powerful for a ship of its size, being able to scan a ship and its systems in great detail, or to scan a large part of a star system. These strong sensors back up my theory that the jumpers were primarily used for recon and planetary surveying as its original design function by the Lanteans, but this is my opinion. The jumpers also have a subspace communicator, an artificial gravity generator, and inertial dampeners for those tight high G maneuvers, and the last control feature the jumper has on board is the DHD for dialing Stargates. This is located in the center of the main console. So now we have talked about the ship's control functions, let's cover the 2 crew compartments and the crew capacity of the Puddle jumper. So starting off with the forward section of the Puddle jumper, the forward section has 4 seats. There's a pilot seat for piloting the Puddle jumper, a co-pilot seat for aiding the pilot in flying, and has 2 more additional seats just behind the co-pilot and pilot seat. The cockpit has a large control console in front of the ship for control from the pilot seat or the co-pilot seat, with the DHD in the middle of the 2 seats. The cockpit also boasts a large window which contains the heads-up display. The forward section of the jumper is separated from the rear section by a bulkhead door. This door can keep the forward section pressurized in space and underwater, allowing the rear section to be used in space without venting the entire ship. The rear section of the jumper can hold around 20 people in a cramped manner, but around 10 passengers comfortably on the seats lining both sides of the rear section. The rear section also contains many small compartments behind the cushions or in control panels in the ceiling, which has control crystals for access to certain ship's functions if the ship is damaged or just to do a diagnostic. The rear compartment also houses the rear door or hatch, if you would like, which is the only entrance on and off the ship. The ship also holds a life signs detector in a small compartment at the front of the ship on the pilot side. In addition, the jumper also comes with a cloaking remote to be able to cloak and decloak the ship from the outside. Other features added later by the Atlantis expedition are storage areas for tower supplies and possibly an Earth radio communication system. Well, there you go then, guys. So I think I've covered all aspects of the Puddle jumper I want to in this breakdown. The Puddle jumper is such a perfect little ship with so much versatility. It's not surprising it has survived for so long, and with the tactics and ingenuity of the Towery, it has become even more than what it was designed for by the Lanteans, making it one of the best assets to the Atlantis expedition. So there we go, my fellow nerds. That's going to be it for today's breakdown. I hope you all have enjoyed the content, and if you did, feel free to hit that like button. Don't forget to comment your thoughts and hit that subscribe button for more. I have been your host, Dr. McKay. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Cheers and goodbye. Goodbye all, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye bye.